Good morning. In this season, I am taking a class at Wesley Theological Seminary that is focused on how we do ministry with children. It's specifically a class about godly play, which is a Montessori-based 3-year cycle of working with children with very specific materials. And these are materials that the faith community actually invested in 15 years ago here at Faith. And for many years, Gina Dawson and Karen Simpson nurtured our young people in the ways of godly play. I have been struck in my learning or my remembering, like, this is part of why I ended up at seminary. I was taking the exact same godly play class that Gina and Karen took in 2004 at Wesley, and I fell in love with this idea that children are these fonts of spiritual awareness and connection with God. And I actually decided to take seminary classes because I was so moved by godly play. And that's how I kind of ended up where I am today. But I'm aware that the depth of that was drawn out of me in my own experience with my kids. I know that my kids had profound experiences of the sacred before they had language for it. And as I've been plowing through some of this stuff this time around, I have laid that differently in our framework of Wesleyan grace. When we remember that we are surrounded by God's grace before we are even aware of the need for that or before we are aware of what that is, then of course children are chalices of grace. And so what that does potentially is shift our mindset from needing to impart information to young minds to the ability to actually learn with or alongside young minds, to share spiritual life together, to be willing to learn from them. I'm not sure why, but it was super helpful for me to think about that in terms of prevenient grace. In Wesleyan tradition, we talk about prevenient, justifying, and sanctifying grace. These were things that were very important to John Wesley. And we don't swim around in those waters a lot here at Faith, but I want to just point out the vital nature of the grace that goes before our awareness and what that means in terms of how we work with young children and how we work with the community at large. God's grace surrounds everyone we encounter. We don't have to introduce God to people. People have already been introduced to God. Whether or not they have the language for it is a piece of what is at work. It feels like not a sermon, just a thought, but it's already a 3-minute plus thought for today. So I'm going to leave it there. And I hope that that percolates a little bit. Be well, be light.